is the Feather River up in Northern California, a place called Sloat. What I did here was I just took a snapshot off a little bridge that went over the river there, and then of course I didn't have a steam engine going by there, but I put one in from the 1940s era to round it off. Otherwise the scene is contemporary, including the coyote down in the lower right-hand side.
You can probably guess John Bromley's favorite period, the time when steam was still a powerful force and presented an artist with a full canvas of options.
My favorite era is, like a lot of fans I guess, was the 40s, 50s. I think because of the mix of steam and diesel, and of course all the great passenger trains on the British railroads were running in those days. Steam engines are an artist's dream because of you could do so much with the smoke and steam, and they all look so different. And it's fun to, you know, by placing the headlight up or higher or lower, the marker lamps or whatever you've got, you can make a steam engine just do all kinds of marvelous things on canvas or on paper. And of course the smoke is just, you know, I think everybody loves to draw smoke. And the trick is to restrain yourself so you don't have these huge clouds of smoke at every painting you do.
His work captures classic trains in many settings. As a kid, he grew up in love with trains. Art school lasted only a little more than a year, but his passion for trains is still glowing.
Well, almost became an artist when I graduated from high school. Majored in art at the University of Nevada in Reno. Always been drawing train pictures since I was a kid. And that developed into one thing or another. And of course, like a lot of people, when you get to school, you really don't know what you want to do. I had started to go to work for the railroad in Las Vegas, Nevada. And my dad talked me out of it. Said he'd help me get started through college, and then after I finished college and I was dumb enough to go railroading, that would be my decision. But so I went off on the art direction, and that's what began my serious look at it, although really it's always been a hobby for me.
After a tour in the Navy, he worked in the media, which led to a career in public relations, and as luck would have it, his love for trains is now part of his everyday life. John Bromley is the Director of Public Affairs for the Union Pacific Railway. So that would mean the UP is his obvious favorite, right?
Quietly, I always admired the Santa Fe. That's my big secret because I love their red war bonnet trains. But I was always loyal to the Union Pacific Railroad, and it was just a fluke of fate that I ended up in Idaho and met some folks up there that led me back into the railroad business.
Look around the UP offices in Omaha and you see his work there, and here.
Well, it's strange, and although I think I've gotten used to it, but it's a wonderful ego trip. I don't make any money at it. I wish I did, but for my own self, it's just wonderful. It kind of started out innocently enough, like everything does, where I did some Christmas cards for the company, and from the Christmas cards, a fellow here started a print business, and he still runs that, Rail History Prints, and that's kind of expanded my exposure where they sell overseas, and now we have my prints are all over this building. They're in many of our office buildings all over the system. Everywhere I go, I get off a train in Los Angeles and I walk in the building and there's one of my pictures. And the other thing it does is I meet people out on the system. They say, "Oh, you're John Bromley, and I've got one of your paintings." Or people, you know, call them up and ask them about how our fuel oil prices are doing. The guy says, "I just bought your latest print," and that's kind of that's fun for me.
For someone who grew up in love with trains, it just doesn't get much better.
John admits that it really is satisfying to look around the Union Pacific offices and see his artwork on the walls. Thanks for being with us, and please join us next time for more Tracks Ahead.